Welcome to Online Tutorial 6, and today I just want to talk to you about these challenges of getting the interim learning report done and to be able to sort of also make sense of the things that are happening for you in the unit. It was really interesting getting your pulse feedback, the original feedback. It's always an interesting one in this unit because more often than not many of you have completed that before we've ever met, which makes for an interesting evaluation. But some of you are like, oh, this is really interesting, different structure, really enjoying this suits me. And others are, I'm not enjoying this at all, don't feel like I've been given any direction, don't feel like I've got any structure, and so on. And obviously we've got some people sitting in the middle. So I want you to use that, whether it's I'm enjoying it, I'm not enjoying it, I want you to use that to your advantage. And I'll come to that in a minute when we get to the section 2. But I've had a few questions in relation to completing section 1 of the interim learning report, and we've had people who haven't come along and participated in the group. What do? Well, just ignore them. It's as simple as that. Then you're not being assessed as a group. There's no pressure on you to make sure this group hangs together and works perfectly. The point of the group exercise is simply to allow you to have your thinking validated, tested, twisted, bent by other people's thinking. So come along to your meetings and talk about, well, this is what I think we could present in workshop 2, and along the way, to what extent is your thinking being tested by this process, okay? I do not want people to simply repeating, Aldridge says this, therefore that. All right? I know what Aldridge says, and I'm not trying to test whether you know what Aldridge says. You've got an idea. I've given you a theoretical framework, and I want you to be able to explain why you think something does or doesn't explain it. Now, your group might think, this is a really cool idea and it could work like this, but you might have reservations. Now, you don't need to argue that out with your group, but you might think, I can see where they're going in that direction. I'm happy to present it that way, but in reality, I actually don't think that's what would happen. So tell me that in your assignment. In your section 1, you can definitely use I, you can use we. You don't have to write it in the third person. So you can say, I found it really interesting that other people assumed this, whereas I sort of interpret the theory to mean possibly this. And when I think, importantly, about how these elements might interact, right, elements of the environmental interaction framework, I can see that this would actually have a bearing on that, and so on, all right? That's what I'm looking for you to do, to go much, much deeper. I don't need to give you huge volume of theory to work through because you've got more than enough to actually go deep down into the nature of the analysis that I'm looking to do. So if you just give me a surface level take on it, don't expect me to come back and say, wow, I'm so impressed with that. I've asked you very specifically to think about the nature of how these components are integrated to each other and how they can help you to explain the nature of thinking that's occurred with your idea in your group, okay? So keep that in mind. Your voice is important, all right? And your voice doesn't have to reign supreme in your group meeting, but your thinking and your ideas can definitely come out, all right? In terms of section 2, really important that you allow your process or your experiences to go through that process. I'm only assessing the process, all right? Where people get stuck here is they think, he hasn't given me enough information for me to work out what the right answer is. There is no right answer. There cannot be a right answer. You're all going to tell me something different. On the basis that you all tell me something different, that means there can only be one person in the class who got it right and everyone else got it wrong. Unless I'm assessing the process, in which case you all have an equal go at being able to work your own thinking and your own feelings through a common process. Follow the process, okay? Think about the question. What have you, to what extent have you recognized this entrepreneurial self? So that's, what do you think entrepreneurship is? Is it a business-related thing only? Or can it be a mindset about how you do anything in life, right? Up to you, okay? But having worked through that, what have you learnt that's new about you, right? What have you found out that's new about you since you've started doing this unit? And it might be you don't like the unit. That's fine. There's no problems. There's no popularity contest going on here, right? I'm trying to test you. I'm trying to challenge you, right? Some of you will respond positively to that. Many of you won't, okay? And there's not a lot I can do about that other than give you a fair process through which to express your sentiments and the outcome so far in the unit in a way that you can't be discriminated against if you follow the process, okay? So follow the process. Go back and watch the video on using the STEPS model and make sure you understand. All I'm looking for you to do is start at the top. What have you learned that's new relative to the primary question? And then ask yourself why. Why is it that I find that new? And find your way down, 4 or 5 whys, all the way down, and then you're ready for the second supporting question. How does this relate to your values? Right, think about who you are, where you're from, why you believe what you believe. If you don't like the unit, it's got something to do with your values, so bring them in and explain that, right? Why? Not why across. Why down? Really getting inside. You should be uncomfortable. If you finish the section 2 and you're not uncomfortable, then you didn't do it. All right? You should be uncomfortable doing that section. It should make you feel like, something's crawling under my skin a bit here. That's how it's designed, right? It's going to be meaningful if you can sense that it's actually peeling back some of the layers of your psyche, okay? Now, for some of you who haven't been able to get into a group and function in that capacity, you can still cope in this context. But you need to find people who have got business experience. You need to find people that you can bounce your ideas off, right? You need to be able to explain the essence of those theories to them. So your concepts that you were, and little definitions that you were working with for your pretest, they're fine to introduce the nature of these concepts to other people. Having done that, you can allow your thinking to be bounced off here and bounced off there. I would expect a little bit of commentary in section 1 when you're actually talking to me about how your thinking has developed in this space. I would expect that you'd be able to tell me that other people have confirmed the nature of your thinking or have disconfirmed it, and it's made you go back to the well and start rethinking things, okay? They are 2 distinct things. One is quite an academic thing. You'll have some academic references at the end of section 1, and section 2 is purely a process of reflection. As I've put the examples for you on Blackboard, and so I would expect it to be exactly like that. 7 paragraphs with a heading on each one. What have you learned that's new? How does this relate to your values? Has it challenged your values? Where's your life experience? Where's your appreciation of other people? What other new source of information? And then lastly, step right back from the whole thing and look at those 6 questions and ask yourself, what does that tell me about myself as a learner? What does it mean for me as a learner to have reflected about myself in that way? And now that I've worked that out, what could I do to be a better learner? Okay, so that last question, question 7, has 2 very distinct components to it. Identifying something about and recognizing yourself as a learner, and then asking what can you do to be a better learner, right? And obviously with each one, why? Why do you see yourself as this type of learner, and why do you think these strategies would be good for you in terms of being able to improve? I hope that helps in terms of you shaping the last bits and pieces of your assignment. I can't wait to read them, and I can't wait to see you all again in week 8. And if you're in that situation where you are disappointed with the way the unit's structured and what, come and have a talk to me, all right? Come and have a talk to me, and let's see if we can move you more. I'm not trying to convince you, but trying to help you to develop some strategies where you can walk away from the unit and say to yourself, you know what? It was very different to what I'm used to, but I can actually understand the logic of it, and I gave it a go. I actually jumped in there and had a go with it, okay? Good luck. As always, any questions or queries, just come and have a chat. I've already had quite a few students have come in and had a chat, and they generally walk away saying, okay, that's great, no worries, I got it. So if you're unsure of something, just contact me. Always happy to have a chat. Cheerio.